right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the land of News Roundup. We've got some interesting stories to talk about today, especially in the wake of that Superman Flight TV spot, with the question of marketing as we approach the Super Bowl, as, you know, we even think about CinemaCon, and of course we have other interesting stories that we're going to go over today, getting into Lanterns, even some Daredevil and whatnot. But before we dive into the news, would really appreciate it if you considered maybe leaving a like, and hey, if you're not subscribed, maybe today is the day you subscribe. I know there's quite a few subscribers who are brand new on the channel. Welcome. I hope you enjoy the future videos here, but also maybe double check the red button, because I've had a lot of you, and I've said this before, but every time I say it, I get a bunch of new comments saying, oh, I checked the red button, I actually thought I was subscribed, but I wasn't. You know, it's because I keep getting recommended on your homepage. But anyway, getting into story number one, according to Thwipped on Twitter, again, grain of salt, you know how that works here. Apparently, Superman will reportedly not be screened at this year's CinemaCon. Now, this all links to all of the recent Super Bowl stuff that you may have heard recently, and you may just want me to get to that, but I'm just going to kind of like combine this all together. As we know with CinemaCon, Warner Brothers previously screened the entire Flash movie there, and that's why, you know, people are thinking with this DCU needing to hit hard, at least, you know, kind of do well and not flop. Some people were thinking, okay, maybe they want to get early reactions out there. But according to this insider, apparently it's not going to. Now, to me, I'm not going to lie, it actually never occurred to me that they would screen Superman at CinemaCon. I mean, I know, again, they screened the Flash movie, but for CinemaCon, I always just thought that and I think it will be the case, that there would be a trailer, and as James Gunn previously teased quite a long time ago now, that it would be attended by him, as well as perhaps some of the cast. Now, I think the benefits of not showing the whole movie is A, to avoid spoilers. Don't forget, CinemaCon is in April, and then Superman drops in theaters in July. And besides, The Flash got almost this jarringly high praise from its screening at CinemaCon, and that didn't exactly do anything for the box office of that movie. Now, as a result of this is where we're now going into people thinking about the Super Bowl, which of course arrives before CinemaCon. So to add all of this into the story, it does seem as though that the Superman sneak peek, as being described by The Hollywood Reporter, that is going to be featured at the Puppy Bowl, is really going to be the extent of what we're getting until CinemaCon. Like, you could argue we might have another random TV spot like the Icon one pop up, but for now, that could very well be it, as we have this story coming out from Deadline saying as follows: the last time Warner's made a big play during a Super Bowl was for 2023's The Flash. Was it really that long ago? My God, we're in 2025 now. Anyway, James Gunn's Superman won't have a new spot. Those trailers aired during the AFC and NFC Championship games last weekend. So, yeah, I said that the Icon TV spot was random, but it actually kind of wasn't, because we've had it air at some football, but you're not going to have this 30-second TV spot or a brand new one playing at the Super Bowl. So this raises the question of, you know, some people being like, oh God, no, Super Bowl feature trailer for Superman? Why? You know, what's going on here? Now, I think there's a few reasons for this. One, I guess, just kind of being that Warner Brothers spent millions upon millions of dollars for that of the Flash trailer. And again, like, what kind of return on investment did that get the Flash movie? Nothing. Now, granted, it's kind of maybe a poor comparison to use, because the Flash was a bit of a different story with all the, you know, press stuff that was happening at the time, all the stories going around with Ezra Miller, and then, you know, the DCEU was kind of fizzling out, you know, with just like Aquaman and maybe Shazam and Blue Beetle left to go, and by that point, I think even the general audience were pretty checked out. But maybe, despite Warner Brothers wanting Superman to succeed, they might feel like they don't. And, like, I know some people are just going to call this cope, but we're going to look at it in every angle. Maybe they feel like they don't actually have to do the Super Bowl trailer to get people to go to buy tickets for the movie in the general audience. The general audience, I keep reiterating and emphasizing those words, because the general audience, it may seem like the internet is very vocal and whatnot, with all of these opinions about this, that, and the other in the public town square of social media sites like Twitter and Threads or whatever else it may be. But that really doesn't represent the hundreds of millions of people who actually go to the cinema and take their kids to the cinema on a Saturday night or afternoon. I feel like a lot of people, or Warner Brothers at least, are thinking maybe like the Super Bowl really wouldn't make too much of a difference. And just to remind everyone, again, that first teaser trailer is now stacked with over 53 million views and broke all kinds of records for Warner Brothers. So it kind of feels like a lot of people already know about Superman. And not only that, it's not like the marketing's got to stop there. They're going to be using this money in different areas. So before we get into that aspect, one thing I need to remind everyone of as well is that Warner Brothers not featuring a trailer at the Super Bowl for an upcoming movie they want to do well isn't unusual. Even when it comes to some of their massively successful movies in the past several, well, God knows how many years, that still did well without a Super Bowl trailer. So what I mean by that is that I believe it was even the case that the splash of cash that they invested for the Flash movie Super Bowl ad was in fact the first time in 17 long years that Warner Brothers even made an appearance at the Super Bowl for an ad of that format. So to people saying with regards to Superman not appearing at the Super Bowl, like, oh my God, they're embarrassed to show Superman at the Super Bowl. I mean, were they embarrassed to show every other movie at the Super Bowl, like Barbie or Dune Part 2 or every other movie in the past God knows how many years? I mean, fair enough if you think that this is still a mistake and they should still do their second feature ad in 17 years like The Flash and now Superman at the Super Bowl, but I wouldn't remotely say it's out of embarrassment just because of the latest discourse with the flight scene out of that bloody Icon TV spot. So going back to the investment in the marketing, or just, the overall marketing for Superman, it's, perhaps that despite Warner Brothers obviously wanting the DCU to start with a good launch, because I know a lot of people would just be thinking that when they're skipping out on the Super Bowl, it's probably that they honestly don't feel like it's a good business decision, nor worth the cash, which I'm pretty sure, by the way, is around $8 million per 30 seconds. So given how Warner Brothers really needs to save money where they can, given, the company money situation, let's just say, and allocate that $8 million instead to different areas of marketing the movie, such as ads on social media and whatnot, will probably be way more effective than doing a Super Bowl trailer, which really the Super Bowl, and this isn't like cope, I'm just saying, in the age of like the 2020s, where you have a lot of other ways of marketing things, the Super Bowl's been around for a very, very long time, as we know. And way back when, it was a lot more effective to get your eyeballs or people's eyeballs on a movie or whatever you want to push, right? Or a product. Now, there's all of these other ways, and I think maybe after the Flash movie, again, say what you will, that had a lot of other things going on with it, they're thinking, yeah, do we really invest this money? Of course, it does market it. I'm not saying it doesn't. It will. Like, we're probably going to get a Fantastic Four trailer and stuff like that. Disney are going to still do it. Other companies are still going to do it. But for Warner Brothers, they're probably thinking, yeah, let's try these other ways rather than, sinking that much money into something that might not truly make as much of a difference as if we kind of went these other ways. So for now, as it stands, the Puppy Bowl sneak peek preview, which is probably going to be a little kind of, how on talk shows when the actor comes on, they show like a 15 to 35 second, maybe even longer clip of a scene. Well, I'm expecting something like that between Superman and Krypto, but we're going to have to wait and see. I don't think it's going to really be in a trailer format unless they attach a little sizzle reel on the end of a scene and then just they say in theaters July 11th. Either way, it's the Puppy Bowl sneak peek, then it's CinemaCon, where I believe, at least right now, my prediction is we're going to get we're going to go from the teaser to the Puppy Bowl sneak peek, and then CinemaCon with the official trailer 1. And then from there on out, I guess it will be more TV spots and then official trailer 2 / final trailer as we go from May and then June into July. But obviously, having spoken about the Icon TV spot in that whole separate video, it's not slowing down on its steam. The story still continues, especially after James Gunn responded. We've got major trades now, like the Hollywood Reporter covering it, saying, James Gunn says new shot of Superman's face is 0 CG. Fans say, we can tell. The irony of that headline is, though, is that I don't think they could tell, because that's what my video was about primarily when I first started speaking about it, is that most of the fans out there, and again, just to make it evidently clear to certain people watching, I'm not saying that you can't think that the shot looks janky or whatever. I'm just saying, all I'm stating is that a lot of people, and I'm talking about a lot of people who were criticizing it, were saying that his face was completely CG'd, like kind of Snapchat, like masked onto a floating kind of flying body, right? When that's not the case. So again, I just personally find it funny that the headline is like, oh yeah, fans were saying, yeah, we can tell that it's got no CG, but it's like, really, no. A lot of people were saying it looked bad because it had CG. But now the story's flipped again, and people are like saying, oh no, it looks bad because it doesn't have CG and it should have CG, which I can understand. You know, logically, people were thinking maybe if they touched up David Corenswet's face with whatever flaws that they're attributing to the shot, maybe it could look better, and that's why it needs CG. But yeah, this whole article really is just reiterating that whole discussion going on right now. They link a couple of tweets, an example of somebody just doing the cross-eyed, lazy eye memes and whatnot. But yeah, it's not blowing away anytime soon. It's like, oh god. However, back to the Puppy Bowl sneak peek scene. I'm optimistic. I'm hoping that people will like what they see with whatever we see. I still suspect it's gonna, because with anything, I think with DC, the kind of fractured fan base from the Snyder era of things to the new era, this, that, and the other of what's happened in between, people liking more of the tone of the Snyderverse, and even though they're Superman fans, their preference is such that they don't want to see a Crypto the Superdog in the fantastical comic book accurate version of the DCU. Do you know what I mean? So what I'm getting to here is, with the Puppy Bowl likely, in my opinion, featuring a scene between Crypto and Superman, I'm hoping that a lot of the general audience will like it, but there still will probably be a lot of negative discourse, I think, with just whatever they show regardless from here on out. We're going to have to wait and see, obviously, but it really wouldn't surprise me. But, double fingers crossed here that people on both sides of the camps or whatever, are generally like, hey, this looks pretty cool. Like a lot of people did with the teaser trailer. A lot of people were still like, hey, I think this looks good. And some people were like, hey, I don't think it looks amazing, but hey, it looks pretty promising. Looking forward to seeing more of official trailer 2. Let's hope the Puppy Bowl, which is the next big thing, brings us something that everyone can connect with, and then obviously CinemaCon with the official trailer 1 after that. So up next, guys, we now have to talk about Lanterns once again, and that's because camera test day began earlier this week for the HBO series, and we have a couple of photo teasers here from Garrett Dillahunt, who's playing the conspiracy-minded man, William Mason. Now, obviously, not a bunch to go over there, but it's exciting nonetheless that the show is geared up to this point, and I'm just hoping that we get to see more just tangible things in the coming weeks and months as shooting begins. Now, the reason why I am talking about Lanterns today is because a lot of you have asked me to talk about something that's been making the rounds. And I don't want to be a party pooper, but I think I might have to be, because I'm after any nugget of tangible Lanterns news, as I've said. But yeah, what's been going around is somehow, when reading out the quote from Poorna Jagannathan in the Collider article the other day, where she discusses how good the writing of the show was, for those of you who watch my news roundup video covering that, I somehow didn't clock Collider saying in that same article that Jagannathan will be playing a key supporting role alongside Garrett Dillahunt and Kelly MacDonald as the no-nonsense sheriff of the town that is suddenly awash with superpowered beings. So when I first saw that, and again, this is why people were reporting that as news, as if like Collider knows something. I was like, yeah, where did they get that description from? That's kind of your knee-jerk reaction. Like quite literally them saying, you know, a no-nonsense sheriff, we already know about Sheriff Kelly, but in a town that is suddenly awash with superpowered beings. It's like, is this like a, you know, is this like a plot point? Because again, to be honest, at first it got me excited, but then I realized that it's likely, you know, I can't promise this or guarantee this, but I think it's likely the article writer just spicing up the article, perhaps through saying that the town is suddenly awash with superpowered beings, really just means that Hal and John Stewart have suddenly entered the town in the American heartland, right? As this description, unfortunately, isn't anywhere else. Again, I went over everything, cross-referenced everything going back to 2023. If people in a town are suddenly awash with superpowered beings or whatever, that would be, I think, you know, Collider would have made a much bigger deal out of that plot point that they learned about, because that infers that whatever's going on with the community secrets in this town, that is, you know, what we've heard legitly, you know, the community secrets part, is somehow imbuing people with powers. And it's like, okay, well, what can we research as comic book fans that could apply to that with theories? So I don't think it's anything new, personally. And then there's another thing that Collider quote, a new description for this series. And it's similar to what we've heard before, but I call it new because it says, and again, stress here, in quotations, a dark earth-bound mystery that ties into larger intergalactic stakes. Now again, I kind of went back everywhere and it's a similar description, but it's new when they say that ties into larger intergalactic stakes. The description before that has always been an earthbound mystery as they investigate a murder in the American heartland. So again here, I think this is probably just the article writer spicing things up. I feel like they would have made a bigger deal out of this one as well if this was true, when they're claiming that the earthbound mystery that John and Hal stumble across in this town with Sheriff Kelly, with community secrets and this conspiracy-minded man, has larger intergalactic stakes. That would be a big deal. Again, not crazy information, but enough to make, you know, if that was real, us think about larger theories and what characters could cause intergalactic stakes. But the thing that rubs me the wrong way, if I'm being honest, is that they use quotation marks, meaning that they are literally quoting that from somewhere, but it isn't, as far as I'm aware, from anywhere. You know, nor from Gunn himself. I think they explained the series that way because of how the show, well, you know, could have intergalactic stakes, because Gunn has said in the past, you know, that in the series, they discover an ancient, terrifying mystery that ties into our larger story of the DCU, and that's a quote that I've been cradling ever since, because that's a big thing. While James Gunn has said that, you know, the DCU's not going to necessarily focus on the big bad being like at the absolute center of everything, it doesn't mean that we're not going to have an overarching threat, but stuff like that explains that they do have a larger story. And it's also described as a terrestrial-based mystery that leads into the overall story that we're telling throughout the different movies and television shows. We find this ancient horror on Earth, and these guys are basically super cops on Precinct Earth. The story is going to weave back and forth between films and the television shows. Peacemaker is a good example of how that works, and that's what we're going to do with this big overarching story that we're telling. So again, big overarching story. They have like some kind of big overarching story of continuity that is going to weave throughout all of these projects, and Lanterns, as I've said from day dot, ever since hearing those initial quotes, is, I think, the, you know, the catalyst of whatever that is. So, you know, in good faith, I think that's why Collider is saying intergalactic stakes. But again, I don't think they should use quotations if there's never been anything official saying that there is intergalactic level stakes. But either way, guys, make sure you are subscribed to the channel for any like little micro update on Lanterns. You know, it's going to be a big one here on the channel, and I can't wait to get more into it. Now, in some other little DC tidbit news, we've had James Gunn talk about Man-Bat, believe it or not. So we got a couple of Creature Commandos updates here, one involving Clayface as well, which clears a couple of things up, even though it may have been obvious to some people. So this user said, "Hey James, really enjoyed Creature Commandos, like with the Suicide Squad. Did you go through a number of different characters for the team before going with the ones you chose? And which characters did you consider for the team early on?" And James replies saying, "I definitely considered Wolfpack, and especially Man-Bat, one of my faves. But I knew I wanted to tell Weasel's story, so it felt like too many rabid and fuzzy characters. I considered Vincent Vaquero, but wanted to choose a creature far outside the usual roster for another part of DC, so I went with Dr. Phosphorus instead. I also considered Solomon Grundy, another favorite, but was pretty set on Frankenstein." So you never know, some of these characters could appear in Creature Commandos Season 2. That would be really cool, but then again, I feel like they would have maybe have made an appearance at the end of the season, just like how King Shark did. But never say never. I think it's just cool hearing him talk about Man-Bat. We also have Gunn talk about Clayface. So the reason why he had to clarify this, I think, is because in Creature Commandos, when Frankenstein electrocutes Clayface, he is pretty much destroyed, but initially you're kind of like, okay, he's just the clay's gonna like mold back together after he's gathered his strength again. But by the time Waller and Economos get there, he's still like completely different blobs of clay on the wall, on the floor. His teeth are just on the floor, so it kind of makes it look like well, for the Clayface Mike Flanagan movie, are they going with a different Clayface in DC? Because there's multiple characters that have had the mantle, even though I wouldn't like that. But anyway, Gunn says over on Blue Sky, the reports of Clayface's death have been greatly exaggerated. He is quite mushy, though. So this is the Clayface that is being explored in Mike Flanagan's DCU story. It is, because I keep seeing people say it, Gunn has confirmed Clayface is in the DCU. Quite literally a DCU story. I know this may seem really self-explanatory to a lot of people, and maybe you didn't even think about it after Creature Commandos, but there were people, even me initially, being like, yeah, like it kind of does seem like they were going to kill him off initially, and then, oh, we're doing a Clayface movie now, so yeah, it's just taken, maybe like this was Clayface's version of a coma, and that's why he still hasn't reassembled himself by the time Waller came in. And as for other Creature Commandos news, James Gunn said that Season 2 is in the works right now. But apparently, as you're seeing on screen, that isn't the next project that he was pre-writing and that we're all wondering about. So whatever that project is that he was pre-writing is still a mystery. I really would love to know your suggestions down in the comments. Like, we know Gunn, like Superman, it's the first film he's done in a long time that isn't the typical, like, misfit crew of people like the Suicide Squad, Creature Commandos, Guardians of the Galaxy. So do you think that the next project he could be writing is another team situation in the DCU? So let's just say the Authority, or do you think he's taking another stab at something singular? So now getting into the Marvel side of things, we had Benedict Cumberbatch now saying that he is in Avengers Doomsday, despite his previous comments. Now, I spoke about this on live stream. Lots of you guys were asking my thoughts about it when that news dropped, but here he's saying, no, I got that wrong. I am in the next one. Don't ever believe anything I say. I'm glad about that, because all I could answer at the time was that, yeah, they would have to come up with like a pretty damn good excuse as to what Strange is doing, as to why he wouldn't be in Doomsday. It's just like, what is he opening portals to go like cherry picking on like a different planet? So I don't know. I know that's quite often like a issue between big event movies anyway. It's like, what is this person doing? What is that person doing over there? Why weren't they here? But yeah, it would have been weird for Strange to not be involved in, the next Avengers. But now we need to get into Daredevil, guys, because the SFX magazine, I've spoken about this again, not so much in video format, but streams. I think they knew what they were doing with that magazine cover, but look how good, you know me, guys, I'm a sucker for vigilante action. And he like Charlie Cox there in the cowl, in the Daredevil suit, just looks incredible. We're going to kind of bring it back around to DC in a way here, because we have the showrunner comparing Daredevil Born Again to the Penguin. And he said, we're even more grounded, even less stylized, even more rooted in the here and now. I loved Penguin, but we're a little faster, meaner, cleaner in our storytelling.
Whoa, take it easy, sweetheart.
But jokes aside here, I mean, I guess, you know, we're gonna have to wait to see the show. I'm not saying I don't believe the guy, but to say that they're meaner. Did you see what happened in the finale between Oz and Vic? And did you see what Oz did to, like, you know, Nadia Maroney? And oh my god, like the show, it got pretty mean. But to be fair, especially with what we're about to get into with the other little Daredevil tidbits, I wouldn't say he's wrong necessarily with what we could see. Daredevil is brutal, and I think Born Again is going to get more brutal. Like, we're already hearing, like, over in the UK, just like the Batman, so we've got a bit more of a harsher rating board, I think. It was a 15. Like, you couldn't, like, over in America, I'm pretty sure it was like a 12 or something, but over here, they ranked it a 15. So that's why Robert Pattinson was so, like, surprised, because I think he realized it kind of sucks that a lot of parents might not take some of their kids who are under 15 to go see that movie. Like, they can't, right? But anyway, before I tangent too much, Daredevil, it's been rated an 18, I believe, over here. So with the other quotes we're about to get into, I think they really are gonna get, like, brutal, and we got a sense of that from the trailer, and Penguin was dark and disturbing. And sure, like, this may seem like a fruitless and irrelevant comparison, right? So, you know, you got Daredevil and you got Penguin. But, you know, I guess sometimes it is just fun to compare. But I think with the crime story that Daredevil Born Again is going to get into, I can somewhat understand that. I mean, just look at some of these quotes right here when we have Charlie Cox, where he was surprised that Daredevil Born Again wasn't Disney-fied. He says, "I was hugely shocked. I expected it to be dumbed down quite a lot, and that has not been the case at all. There are a couple of scenes that I find difficult to watch, and I don't remember feeling that way previously." We have the showrunner here, again, saying that Daredevil Born Again will include a violent sequence that is straight out batshit and way farther past anything Daredevil, so over on Netflix, ever did. And it's absolutely earned. Maybe that will be the flashback to Daredevil crossing the line, as he said in the trailers, because of maybe something that will happen with the OG crew there. We have the showrunner once again here saying, "I really feel that Netflix's Daredevil, which I know in my blood, was much more noir. And this show is more New York crime story. It has elements of The Sopranos and King of New York. There's a feeling for those classic 90s crime tales." So I do think that actually does sound kind of cool, by the way. And what he's saying, like the difference between Born Again is and the Netflix series. But you can really see what they're doing here. It's going to be a lot more brutal. And speaking of going ham, well, my God, you know, there's been a lot of theories coming out of that trailer with the whole Karen Foggy and Matt thing. And, well, we had this portion from the SFX magazine. Now, I can't tell who wrote this. I don't know if it's the showrunner, or who said this, rather, the showrunner, or if it was Charlie Cox. But the quote is, "I always say that TV shows are like running a marathon," he continues. Maybe it is a showrunner, I don't know. "You run at a sprint, and then they put a bullet in your head at the end. You just keep going until the show is cancelled or it finds its end. And we're not done yet. I don't think the story of Karen Page, Matt Murdock, and Frank Castle will ever be over." Why isn't Foggy mentioned in that? No? No, it's kind of sus if you ask me. And then we had the showrunner saying about the death of Karen Page and Foggy Nelson, or just, you know, the dying in the series rumors being, you know, all those rumors are true. None of them are true. I refer people to the comic books where the fate of both those characters has happened many times in different ways, basically saying nothing there. But yeah, the previous quote definitely piqued my interest. It's just like, oh yeah, Karen Page, Matt Murdock, and Frank Castle, the story will never be... Foggy's just sat there in the back like, what? So let me know if you think that is going to go down the way that fans have been thinking for quite a while. Let me know if you think the brutality, specifically that one scene the showrunner was referring to, the batshit crazy level thing that has been earned apparently. Let me know what you think that's the result of. I think it could be because Daredevil crossed the line, as Matt Murdock says to Kingpin in the trailer. But anyway, not too long to wait now for Daredevil. Cannot wait myself. We'll be covering it on the channel. But with that being said, that is today's news roundup over. Let me know your thoughts on each and every story down in the comments below. If you like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button. Consider subscribing for more videos just like this. But once again, thank you so much for your support. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see everyone in the next video. Goodbye.